From the void, the humans were almost invisible, a pale swirl of oceans and clouds, dotted with lights that blinked like nervous fireflies against the darkness of space. We, the observers, had cataloged this world for cycles, calculating every orbit, every energy signature, every weapon array. We were certain of its weakness. Our ships, massive and gleaming, reflected starlight like shards of a sun, and our sensors traced every human movement, every blink of their primitive satellites. Yet, even before we descended, an unease rippled across the command deck. The humans, fragile, chaotic, illogical, did something no calculation had predicted. They moved not as individuals, nor as a mass, but with an instinctive, almost conscious synchronization that defied logic. Our analysts whispered in our own clicks and hums, dismissing it at first as random chaos. But chaos, we began to realize, carried purpose. Across the glowing cities, lights flared in patterns we could not decode. Emergency signals pulsed with a strange rhythm, faster than any algorithm could anticipate. From orbit, we observed the civilians, ships being repaired mid-flight, crews reorganizing supply chains, engineers dismantling reactors that were on the verge of meltdown and reassembling them in record cycles. Every action was small, trivial on its own, yet together they formed a web of resistance, as if the planet itself had taught them to endure. Our scouts reported soldiers improvising defenses that should have failed in seconds. Barricades of metal and stone held under the impact of weapons far beyond human manufacture. Plasma beams tore through structures, yet humans moved like shadows, repairing, redirecting, and striking back with primitive tools in ways that confounded our predictive models. We began to notice patterns. A human here would act to protect another there, their movements not dictated by orders, but by some raw, unquantifiable will.
We had cataloged intelligence in thousands of species across countless systems, but nothing had ever displayed such relentless instinctual coordination. And yet, even as we observed this, a certain arrogance remained. The humans were fragile, their bodies weak, their ships slow, their minds imperfect. We told ourselves they were adaptive, and that adaptation alone would not suffice against the might of our fleet. We descended toward them with confidence. We would establish dominance. We would bend this world to our designs. The first night of our descent was when we began to feel it, the faint tremor of fear, subtle and unwelcome. The cities flickered beneath us, but not with panic. There was no chaos in their fear. There was strategy, patience, and most unsettling, defiance. Relief fleets emerged from harbors we hadn't even registered, small craft towing massive rafts of supplies, organizing evacuation points, guiding civilians with precision. Engineers repaired reactors that should have exploded with a single misstep, their hands moving with terrifying efficiency under the flickering glow of emergency lighting. Soldiers held positions we thought would collapse, their barricades designed as if anticipating the exact trajectory of our weapons. We began to whisper among ourselves about the fragile primates, a species that dared to challenge the void itself. Our calculations screamed that they were outmatched, outgunned, insignificant. Yet observation was undermining certainty. With every passing hour, the humans exhibited not only adaptation, but something more, a courage that bordered on fury, a kind of audacity that surged from them like heat from a furnace. It was raw, animalistic, yet honed by intellect. By the time our fleet reached low orbit, we realized our sensors were inadequate. Every projection had failed. The humans moved unpredictably, instinctually, combining improvisation with coordination in ways that defied logic.
Even when we attempted direct communication, even when we threatened with displays of overwhelming power, they did not cower. They moved. They adapted. They survived. And in that moment, a terrifying realization took root. We had underestimated them. These fragile primates were not merely adaptive. They were cunning, relentless, and ferociously alive. They wielded survival as instinct, and instinct as weapon. Our first strike loomed, yet the humans, humble, defiant, unbroken, were already preparing. From the void, we watched the city lights flicker like embers in the night wind, and for the first time in countless cycles of conquest, we felt apprehension. We had assumed weakness, we had assumed predictability, and yet the humans had already begun to rewrite the rules. The sensors began to fail in regions we thought secure, signals scrambled by devices we could not identify. Something in their organization had anticipated our descent. A storm of coordinated chaos was gathering below, and though we hovered in the void with all our might, a new emotion stirred in our ranks. Fear, not of annihilation, but of being outwitted by a species so small, so fragile, yet so impossibly unyielding. The first night ended with no explosions, no immediate victories, only a dawning awareness that the battle had already begun, and the humans had already claimed the advantage we had failed to anticipate. Our fleet, silent and enormous, waited in orbit, unaware that beneath us, the world's inhabitants were moving with a precision that would soon make us reconsider everything we thought we knew. A whisper ran through the command deck, vibrating in our neural networks. They are more than adaptable. They are inevitable. And then the lights below blinked once more, signaling the first human counterstrike, an action we could not predict, and one that would shatter the arrogance of our descent.
That ends the section with a strong hook, rising tension, and a cinematic cliffhanger leading into the next stage of conflict. The first salvo hit like a storm of fire across human cities. From orbit, the alien sensors recorded the eruption of flame and smoke, expecting immediate collapse. But the humans, small, fragile, improbable, did not flee. They did not scream. They moved with a strange, terrifying purpose, rising from burning streets to confront the onslaught with whatever they could wield. Crude weapons, makeshift cannons, scavenged energy rifles, all cobbled together from remnants of a world thought defenseless, became extensions of a will the aliens could neither calculate nor comprehend. Our fleets, massive and precise, designed to crush entire continents, found themselves ensnared in invisible snares. Buildings rigged to explode in patterns we could not anticipate, streets that shifted like living labyrinths, and ambushes that twisted the battlefield into chaos. Every maneuver the humans executed defied our simulations. What we had expected to be a short campaign became a maze of unpredictability, each trap more ingenious than the last. Command decks hummed with unease. Why risk so much for so little, our analysts murmured. But no answer sufficed. The humans acted not from strategy alone, but from an instinctual courage, a stubbornness that bordered on madness. Soldiers moved as if chaos itself was their ally, weaving through fire and debris to strike, retreat, and strike again. Even the wounded became instruments of defiance, their determination infectious among their comrades. The hive mind had cataloged thousands of species, but never one so small, yet so capable of shaping the theater of war with sheer willpower. The skies themselves seemed to answer their fury. Plumes of smoke twisted into unnatural currents, caught in thermal winds shaped by the humans' improvised devices.
Their incendiaries, crude yet precise, danced in the night like fireflies with purpose. Orbital strikes were met with counterattacks that no protocol could predict. The humans' improvisation was almost primitive, yet elegant in its unpredictability. Every movement, every reaction carried the unmistakable imprint of courage, a raw, unyielding force. Alien commanders watched, unease swelling into fear. Their ships, gleaming and enormous, were forced to maneuver with caution, dodging traps that seemed to anticipate their every calculation. And beneath the flames, humans executed rescues that were astonishing in their precision. Civilians pulled from wreckage, medics navigating streets ablaze, engineers repairing vital systems amidst explosions, every act a defiance of inevitability. Each success against us was not just survival, it was a statement, a proclamation of audacity that echoed across the battlefield. Our sensors tried to quantify it, tried to assign logic to instinct, but the humans remained elusive. A street corner that had been obliterated would teem with soldiers moments later. A building that should have collapsed entirely held, reinforced by ingenuity and will. Our algorithms failed to track the cohesion in their chaos, the strange unity in disarray. They were, in every sense, unpredictable, and unpredictability is a predator's worst enemy. The first aerial skirmishes added another layer to the terror. Our drones swarmed, plasma arcs slicing through clouds, yet human pilots evaded with uncanny timing. They weaved through debris, over firestorms, and into shadows we had never charted. Fighters launched from rooftops, from rivers, from improvised launch platforms hidden among the ruins.
Our superior firepower was blunted, frustrated by creatures who defied expectation at every turn. Commanders muttered, almost to themselves, about the audacity of creatures who fought with such small weapons and such enormous hearts. As night fell, the battle intensified.
Flare cannons lit the streets, illuminating humans racing across rooftops, dragging weapons, supplies, and each other. Fires blazed, turning cities into glowing veins of resistance. Our attacks only seemed to embolden them. Every strike we delivered was absorbed, adapted to, and countered with precision that mocked our calculations. The humans did not surrender. They evolved, rapidly, unnervingly, with an instinctive genius born from desperation and audacity. In one district, our sensors recorded a sequence that shook the hive mind. A single squad of human soldiers, outnumbered 10 to 1, used the ruins of their city to channel our forces into a bottleneck. From collapsed buildings and overturned vehicles, they created channels of fire and debris that guided our ships into vulnerable positions. Our strikes, meant to obliterate them, were turned against us, and when the dust settled, those same humans emerged, unbroken, dragging the wounded to safety, reorganizing their defenses, ready for the next strike. Even in our observation, fear took root. The humans were more than adaptable, they were relentless. They wove chaos into strategy, improvisation into offense, and instinct into weapon. Each small action had the weight of defiance, each gesture a declaration of supremacy over the battlefield. Our fleet, enormous, precise, and confident, found itself responding rather than dictating, reacting rather than conquering. As the first flames of dawn touched the horizon, the alien command decks were silent, save for the hum of sensors that could not keep up. The humans, battered yet undiminished, stood poised to strike again. Every city, every street, every roof was a potential nest of counterattack. Our projections failed, our logic faltered, and in that silence, the unspoken truth became clear. We were observing not merely survival, but a force that embodied defiance itself.
Our analysts whispered fearfully, a collective tremor through our neural networks. These creatures, so small, so fragile, were reshaping the rules of war. And as the sun crested the horizon, illuminating smoke and fire, the humans launched their next assault. We could not predict it, we could not prepare for it, and as the first salvo of human counterattack streaked through the dawn sky, our fleet realized an unsettling reality. The battle had already slipped from our control. The fire across the skies was not an attack, it was a declaration, and we, vast and certain, had only just begun to understand the fury we had awakened. The oceans. We believed them conquered before a single vessel breached their surface. Our confidence was absolute. Vast fleets of submersibles, hulls reinforced with alloys unknown to human metallurgy, glided through the dark waters, bioengineered leviathans straining against currents as if born for annihilation. Our sensors mapped every trench, every abyss, every thermal vent. Every potential sanctuary the humans might exploit was catalogued, every possible resistance calculated and dismissed. Yet as our forces penetrated the depths, a subtle shift began, a disturbance that our scanners could not trace, a pulse beneath the crushing pressure, faint yet insistent, as if the ocean itself were alive with defiance. The humans had not fled. They had vanished. Beneath the waves, they had constructed labyrinthine refuges, pressure-resistant labs, and stealth submarines designed to slip silently into the abyssal darkness. Entire fleets of ours moved through the water, expecting surrender, expecting silence, and instead vanished. One by one, our units disappeared from our monitoring grids. No distress signals, no hull breaches, simply nothing. The abyss swallowed them. Our hive mind flickered with unease. These were creatures so small, so fragile, and yet they had mastered the most hostile environment on the planet. Our logic strained to comprehend it. Then, unexpectedly, the humans struck, not with overwhelming force, but with precision that suggested the ocean itself guided them. Submersibles we believed indestructible were sabotaged from angles we could not anticipate. Mines detonated in chains, currents amplified by hydrokinetic devices, flinging our ships into reefs or down trenches too deep for our instruments to follow. Even our leviathans, engineered for aggression, faltered against coordinated counterattacks we could neither predict nor counter. The humans moved like shadows beneath the waves, disappearing, reappearing, shaping chaos into a weapon. From our observation pontoons, we recorded the horrifying spectacle. Hydrokinetic storms roared through canyons, tidal surges manipulated by human ingenuity, pulling our vessels into maelstroms with terrifying accuracy. Crude as their technology seemed compared to ours, their understanding of the ocean's dynamics was masterful, instinctive. Humans we had assumed would drown in the pressures of the abyss instead commanded it, bending currents, pressures, and darkness to their advantage. Each strike was a lesson in patience, each retreat a calculated setup for vengeance. Every maneuver was proof that humans did not merely survive, they dominated. Alien analysts recalculated endlessly, attempting to find patterns in the humans' movements, yet our algorithms failed. Every strike, every disappearance, every eruption of water and debris seemed random, and yet it was deliberate. Humans had woven the environment into their strategy, merging instinct with intellect to craft something our logic could not decipher. Their small vessels outmaneuvered our most sophisticated submersibles. Their shelters withstood pressures that should have crushed them, and they emerged relentless from the depths time and again. In one region, a fleet of our vessels advanced, confident in their superiority, only to be funneled into a narrow trench. Pressure fields, amplified by hydrokinetic devices, pinched our hulls and fractured the water with sudden, violent currents. Explosions rippled through the water, and within minutes, the fleet was lost. Sensors went dark, readings scrambled, echoes bouncing off the walls of the abyss that were now alive with unseen danger. The humans had anticipated us, not with brute force, but with a patience and cunning that defied calculation. Each vessel lost was a testament to their audacity, each destroyed Leviathan a monument to their intelligence. From above, the aliens' vessels hovered, unable to intervene, powerless in the face of this subterranean mastery. Every hour brought reports of new tactics, currents redirected to isolate attackers, sonic pulses disorienting our crews, stealth submarines emerging like ghosts to strike and vanish again. They were almost invisible, yet everywhere at once. They had transformed the oceans from obstacle into ally, using every natural advantage with ruthless precision. The sheer audacity of their engineering, their coordination, their patience, filled our observation decks with unease. We began to understand the scale of our miscalculation. We had assumed dominion over water, believing that biological superiority and mechanical might would guarantee control. But the humans were not measured by size, strength, or technology. They were measured by endurance, by ingenuity, and by an instinctive mastery over adversity that our scanners could not quantify. Even when we cornered them, they slipped through our grasp. Even when we anticipated their movements, they adapted before we could react. One by one, our fleets were routed, not by superior numbers or overwhelming energy, but by the humans' ability to meld with their environment, to turn death traps into weapons, to treat the crushing pressure and darkness as an extension of their own will.
From our pontoons, the scenes below were almost beautiful in their terror. Currents bending, vessels twisted, explosions rippling silently through the abyss, all orchestrated by creatures who seemed fragile on the surface but were unstoppable within their domain. As hours bled into days, our records filled with admiration and fear in equal measure. These humans were not merely resisting, they were asserting dominion. The oceans, the most alien and dangerous environment on their own planet, had become a proving ground, and humanity ruled it with patience, intelligence, and ferocity. Every submersible destroyed, every trap sprung, every vanished vessel was a message. These creatures would not yield. And in the silent, crushing darkness of the abyss, we began to perceive the truth, the terrifying revelation our calculations could never encompass. Humans, small and fragile as they appeared, were masters of Earth itself. Land, sea, and air, they ruled not by domination, but by endurance and cunning. Every attempt at control had failed, every plan had been outwitted, every expectation shattered. A tremor ran through the command decks, a silent acknowledgement that our conquest was slipping through our grasp. Our leviathans, our fleets, our carefully constructed superiority,
None could suppress the force emerging from the depths. And then, as a human submersible struck a critical junction, sending a shockwave of destruction through a fleet we believed invincible, a new awareness settled in our ranks. We were facing a species that could claim mastery over every domain of its homeworld, a species whose instinct, intelligence, and resilience had no equal. In the silence of the abyss, as currents and pressures shifted at the whim of unseen human hands, the aliens finally understood the scale of what they confronted. Humanity's dominion was not a question of numbers or weapons. It was a question of instinct, patience, and inexorable will.
And from the shadows of the oceanic trenches, a new counteroffensive began. A strike so precise, so deliberate, that even our most sophisticated sensors could barely register it. The humans were not merely surviving the oceans, they were preparing to reclaim the rest of their world. The depths remembered, and so did the humans. The abyss held its breath, and we, vast and calculating, felt fear for the first time. Our attention shifted upward. The oceans, once presumed conquered, were lost to the humans' ingenuity. Now the orbital strongholds awaited. The sky cities, colossal constructs of alloy and energy, floating above the planet like arrogant sentinels. They were bristling with weaponry, plasma turrets, energy grids, and orbital cannons designed to annihilate any approaching force. We believed the humans, small and untrained in zero-G combat, would flounder beneath our relentless orbital assault. Confidence coursed through our networks like electricity, until the humans struck. It began subtly. Small craft, barely detectable by our long-range scanners, darted through debris fields, weaving between broken satellites and orbital junk. Their movements were unpredictable, erratic, yet precise. Drones launched from our strongholds intercepted them, but coordination among human pilots exceeded expectation. They did not move in patterns we could anticipate. They adapted on the fly, shifting formation, using our own attacks as cover. Debris that we assumed inert became shields, improvised barriers, and even weapons as the humans redirected asteroids, wreckage, and dislodged satellite fragments with stunning accuracy. Our tactical simulations failed in real time. Alien commanders observed with disbelief. Every orbital strike we launched was countered. Every attempt to disable or overrun a human squadron met with improvisation that bordered on brilliance. Gravity wells, which we had weaponized against other species for centuries, were turned back on us.
Humans harnessed them to redirect our own drones into collisions, their small craft threading through the turbulence like fish in a current we had thought would crush them. Their resilience was extraordinary, but what was more terrifying was their audacity. The sky cities themselves became arenas of constant skirmish. Plasma beams streaked across the void, illuminating the darkness with sudden flares that revealed nimble human fighters, striking from unexpected vectors. From the alien perspective, it was chaos. Debris spiraled unpredictably, explosions erupted in calculated intervals, and yet the humans moved as one, coordinated in a fashion that defied our algorithms. Command decks buzzed with alarm. Confidence, our most reliable tool, was eroding, replaced by an unfamiliar sensation: fear. Small squads of humans, launched in shuttles from the planet below, infiltrated supply nodes with surgical precision. The humans' improvisation was astonishing. Where we expected disorder, there was order. Where we anticipated hesitation, there was instinctive audacity. Orbital cannons fired, plasma lances flared, yet human craft dodged and countered with a speed and creativity that even our most advanced predictive models could not accommodate. The hive mind shuddered. We had underestimated them yet again. From our orbital observation decks, the humans seemed untouchable. Their tactics were improvisational, yet deliberate. Entire debris fields became shields. Asteroids, repurposed as kinetic projectiles, tore through our formations. Gravity anomalies, once weaponized against us, were now tools of human ingenuity. Every stronghold we tried to probe or sabotage revealed vulnerabilities exploited immediately by humans, leaving our fleets struggling to maintain cohesion. We watched as entire sections of the orbital network were sabotaged, not with brute force, but with intelligence, cunning, and patience. A single human fighter, piloting a craft barely larger than our drones, destroyed multiple supply nodes by exploiting weaknesses in our energy shielding. Another squad redirected a tumbling satellite to collide with a maintenance array,
setting off a chain reaction that crippled defensive turrets. The alien commanders, confident just hours before, now recorded notes of disbelief and fear. These were creatures so small, yet capable of converting chaos into advantage, unpredictability into weaponry. The humans' mastery of the orbital theater was not just tactical, it was psychological. Their presence disrupted our algorithms, our assumptions, and our arrogance. Every maneuver forced our commanders to recalculate in real time. Every counterattack revealed our misjudgment. Every successful strike against us was proof that human instinct and ingenuity could exceed even the most sophisticated mechanical intelligence. The hive mind could not comprehend it fully. We cataloged behaviors, ran simulations, yet the humans anticipated outcomes we had not even considered. Even as our fleets launched volleys of plasma and orbital bombardments, human fighters continued to evade, harry, and sabotage. In one sequence, a squadron guided our own orbital debris into a defensive cannon, destroying it from within. In another, humans used microgravity currents and electromagnetic pulses to fling drones into their own formations, neutralizing our advantages in an instant. From our perspective, the sky cities were no longer strongholds, they were traps, arenas where the humans dictated the terms of engagement. And still, we could not predict their next move. Every formation, every strike, every countermeasure was executed with such fluidity, such improvisational brilliance, that our confidence began to fracture. Our commanding nodes, the brain of our fleet, buzzed with continuous recalculation, yet every analysis fell short.
The humans were chaos incarnate, yet controlled. Unpredictable, yet precise.
As orbital skirmishes raged, a terrifying realization emerged. Humans were not merely resilient, they were the embodiment of chaos turned into power. Every attack we launched was not only repelled, but absorbed into the human strategy, feeding into their ability to strike again, stronger and more unexpectedly. Orbital dominance, we had believed, was ours by right. Instead, the skies became a proving ground for a species that thrived in adversity, that converted every disadvantage into an advantage, that transformed every threat into opportunity. From our perspective, the horizon of space burned with streaks of plasma, explosions, and flashes of small, nimble human craft. Command decks recorded awe mingled with fear. The humans' improvisation, their patience, and their audacity were a force we could not calculate, an intelligence we could not contain. We had believed the orbital strongholds would crush them. We were wrong. And then, as a human squadron darted through the debris, igniting a chain reaction that threatened multiple strongholds simultaneously, the alien commanders realized a truth that would haunt every calculation. The humans were not fighting for survival alone. They were mastering the skies themselves. Our fleet faltered, massive vessels straining to react, sensors scrambling, algorithms failing. And above Earth, the sky cities, once our pride, began to bend under the ingenuity of their defenders. The humans had not merely survived the oceans and streets, they were ascending, and the skies themselves would bow to their will. The siege had begun, and the aliens, confident in centuries of conquest, now faced a species that had turned chaos into weapon. The chaos above the oceans and within the orbital theaters revealed only part of the human story. From the void, we traced patterns, subtle and unyielding, and discovered the true heartbeat of resistance, the human command. It was smaller than expected, yet formidable.
Underground bunkers carved deep into the planet, hidden high-tech command centers, and mobile operations veiled in electromagnetic interference coordinated the entire species with uncanny precision. Signals flickered across frequencies we could barely monitor, passing as invisible threads between soldiers, engineers, and civilians. Every action seemed spontaneous, yet every spontaneous act contributed to a larger, unbroken whole. Our analysts strained to follow the flow. Every time we believed we had located a central hub, a nexus of control to disrupt their coordination, it dissolved into shadows. Humans dispersed, decentralized, yet their movements were cohesive, instinctive, inexorable. One strike here, a diversion there, supply lines cut, orbital satellites disrupted, all executed as if by a single conscious will, though no single human orchestrated the entirety.
The hive mind, accustomed to overwhelming predictability in lesser species, faltered. Panic, quiet but undeniable, rippled across our neural networks. How could we predict the next move of a species that wove chaos into strategy? And yet, the humans were not reckless. Observers recorded them pausing, calculating in microseconds, then striking with precision that bordered on genius. Supply convoys we expected to flow freely were intercepted, rerouted, or destroyed in ways that maximized their effect while minimizing risk to their own forces. Orbital satellites, instruments of our superiority, were neutralized by small teams using tools improvised in ways our algorithms could not anticipate. Communication nodes we believed invulnerable fell one by one, disabled with precision, yet the humans continued to communicate as if nothing had changed. We watched, horrified, as probability itself seemed to bend to their will. Each successful strike, each rescued squad, each retaken territory seemed improbable on its own, but humans made it routine.
The sheer audacity of their coordination, in defiance of superior technology and overwhelming firepower, left our observers in a state of disbelief. What we assumed would collapse under a fraction of the strain held fast and struck back. It was as if human determination was a material force, dense and impenetrable, reshaping the battlefield itself. Even from the void, we could see the cohesion of instinct. Soldiers moved with intuition honed by necessity. Engineers repaired systems under fire with hands steady, as if guided by the planet itself. And civilians performed acts of survival and ingenuity that wove into the larger framework of resistance. The humans were decentralized, yet unified. Their leadership did not command, they inspired. It was a network of will, fluid yet strong, chaotic yet precise. Fear mixed with admiration among our analysts. Every new report was a lesson in humility. The humans were teaching us, whether we wished to learn or not, that strength was not measured solely by numbers or technology. They redefined resilience in real time. Our simulations failed repeatedly. Our strategies were anticipated, countered, and turned against us. Even the smallest human squad could disrupt an entire operation, yet the species as a whole operated with perfect coordination. Our logical frameworks, built over millennia, were useless here. The hive mind recorded every instance, every improvisation, every victory born of audacity and instinct. Patterns emerged, yet they were patterns we could not exploit. Humans did not repeat, they evolved. Every attack they launched, every sabotage, every retaken outpost was a signal that the species was not merely reacting, it was learning, adapting, and reshaping the conflict according to its own rules. Even in retreat, they were advancing, absorbing failure as knowledge and converting obstacles into advantages.
From orbital observation points to deep underground, humans launched counterstrikes that confounded our expectation. Supply depots were ambushed with near-prescient timing. Satellites were disabled in a sequence we could not predict, communication nodes disabled with surgical precision, and reconnaissance units diverted into traps with terrifying accuracy. Each success, improbable on paper, was executed flawlessly, a testament to their instinct and ingenuity. We began to whisper among ourselves. These creatures were more than adaptable. They were strategic in their chaos, relentless in their execution, and unfathomably patient. Every maneuver reflected an intelligence that was not rigid but fluid, capable of reshaping probability itself. Our confidence, once absolute, was replaced by a creeping dread, the realization that no plan, no algorithm, no overwhelming force could anticipate the breadth and depth of human determination. And yet, humans did not gloat, they did not falter. Each victory fueled the next, every setback transformed into opportunity. We, the vast and calculating observers, were learning a lesson we could not fully comprehend. The humans were not merely fighting, they were asserting mastery over the battlefield in a way that defied prediction, that bent probability, that rendered our superior technology almost irrelevant. The heart of resistance beat everywhere. From underground bunkers to city ruins, from oceans to orbital skirmishes, humans coordinated with precision born of instinct, courage, and relentless ingenuity. There was no single leader to destroy, no central command to obliterate. They were decentralized, dispersed, yet united in purpose, bound by a determination that transcended strategy. We recorded it all, trying to understand, to predict, to prepare. Yet each day brought a new act of brilliance, a new tactic we could not anticipate, a new counterstrike that reshaped the battle.
The humans had become a force that existed beyond calculation, beyond expectation. Their instinct was a weapon, their will a force of nature. And in that realization, the hive mind faltered. Fear crept into the neural networks, subtle yet pervasive. These creatures, so small, so fragile, were mastering chaos itself. Each successful counterstrike, each salvaged position, each unseen maneuver reinforced a singular truth. We were observing not merely survival, but the triumph of determination and instinct over technology, over numbers, over prediction. The heart of resistance was not a place, nor a person, nor even a plan. It was the humans themselves. And as they launched yet another coordinated assault, targeting orbital communications with uncanny precision, the aliens understood that the war was no longer a contest of fleets or weapons. It was a contest of will. The humans had found their rhythm, and we, the vast and calculating, had yet to comprehend the full measure of their genius. The aliens had grown desperate, cornered, their fleets assembled for a final, overwhelming offensive. Ships bristled with weaponry, leviathans prepared for annihilation, and orbital arrays powered to their limits. From our observation points, we could sense the tension in their neural networks, a strain uncharacteristic of conquerors accustomed to victory. They believed their firepower, their scale, their precision could finally break the humans. They were wrong. Below, across ruined cities and scorched oceans, humanity prepared with a calm that unsettled our senses. Soldiers moved with methodical precision, engineers reinforced defenses, civilians organized supplies with uncanny foresight. The humans were battered, their world marred by fire and flood, yet their eyes, our sensors recorded every flicker, revealed no fear. Instead, there was focus, coordination, patience. A species on the brink, yet unbroken, waiting for the moment to turn desperation into strategy.
The first assault began in the skies. Orbital bombardments tore across human cities, lighting the night with arcs of plasma and fire. Beneath the blasts, humans executed maneuvers we could not anticipate. Streets became conduits for counterattacks, debris transformed into shields, buildings rigged with kinetic traps funneled alien forces into ambushes. From the oceans, stealth submarines emerged to strike the underbellies of invading vessels, their attacks timed with precision that suggested preternatural intuition. Orbital skirmishes erupted into chaos as small human fighters, darting through debris and plasma flares, dismantled drones and intercepted supply lines. From our vantage, the spectacle was terrifying. Humans turned environmental disadvantages into weapons. Hurricanes redirected alien energy streams. Plasma storms lit entire coastlines, while humans guided them with timing and ingenuity. The deep-sea defenses, long underestimated, unleashed torrents of hydrokinetic fury, capsizing leviathans, redirecting fleets into trenches too deep to escape. Psychological tactics compounded the chaos. Humans faked retreats, baited attacks, and drew our forces into traps where every movement favored them and punished us. Our calculations failed continuously. Every strike we believed would crush the humans was anticipated, countered, or absorbed. Every formation we deployed against them dissolved under pressure, turning our numerical superiority into liability. We observed humans coordinating across cities, oceans, and orbital arrays in ways that defied conventional logic. They moved as one organism, yet each unit retained individuality. Adaptation was instantaneous, improvisation near instinctual. Where we expected hesitation, there was cunning. Where we predicted panic, there was resolve. Alien commanders could not understand the scale of resistance. One by one, fleets were routed.
Ships that had survived centuries of conquest succumbed to traps that should have been trivial. Orbital stations collapsed under focused strikes from human fighters, navigating microgravity with ingenuity we had not anticipated. Submerged fortresses erupted in coordinated waves of destruction against our leviathans, turning the sea into a battlefield shaped entirely by human will. The humans' mastery of every environment, land, sea, and air, rendered our technological superiority impotent. We recorded every maneuver in disbelief.
Humans had no advantage in sheer size or energy output, yet they orchestrated a symphony of resistance. Each act of courage, each improvised tactic, each perfectly timed counterattack built upon the last, creating a crescendo that left our fleets floundering. The humans were not fighting for survival, they were asserting mastery, proving that instinct, creativity, and determination could overcome even overwhelming force. Our sensors captured sequences that would have been impossible to predict. A single human fighter, evading orbital strikes, redirected a cluster of satellites into a formation of alien drones. Simultaneously, submerged human units detonated engineered currents, capsizing leviathans and severing supply chains. A city, half ruined by plasma bombardment, became a launchpad for human counterattacks that struck with precision at the orbital fleet above. We, the observers, cataloged it all, but comprehension eluded us. Fear coursed through our networks, not just for losses, but for the realization that humans could not be contained. Their resilience was inexorable, their audacity unmatched. As the last coordinated offensive began, the aliens' confidence shattered. Fleets retreated, leviathans succumbed, and orbital stations fell one by one. Every measured strike we launched met ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability on the human side.
They were everywhere at once, yet nowhere to target, shaping chaos into a weapon that left us bereft of strategy. And then, from our vantage, we saw it, the final convergence of human forces. Across skies, oceans, and cities, humans synchronized their resistance. Plasma storms, debris fields, hydrokinetic torrents, and orbital skirmishes converged in a terrifyingly perfect sequence. The humans did not merely react, they dictated the tempo of the battlefield. Every alien advance was anticipated, countered, or redirected. Our technological supremacy, our countless fleets, our careful calculations, all meaningless against the force of human will. The last fleet was forced to retreat, battered and demoralized. We recorded the aftermath with a mix of awe and dread. Humans emerged victorious, not because of firepower, not because of scale, but because of an unbreakable spirit, a determination that no alien technology could suppress. Every ruined city, every reclaimed ocean, every orbital stronghold retaken was proof that human survival was not measured by resources, but by audacity, ingenuity, and relentless courage. Even as the aliens withdrew, we sensed something more profound. The humans did not celebrate. Their focus remained, their coordination unbroken, their eyes still set on defending their world. Victory was not a conclusion, it was a responsibility, a vow. And the aliens, vast and calculating, were forced to admit a terrifying truth. This species, small and fragile in appearance, had mastered the art of war in every environment on its planet. Their instinct for survival, honed by adversity, was matched only by their ingenuity, and together these forces were unstoppable. The final stand was not a battle, it was a revelation. Humanity's audacity, patience, and brilliance reshaped the battlefield at every turn, leaving alien observers awestruck and fearful. We had expected weakness, disorder, and eventual submission.
Instead, we found mastery, precision, and a relentless will that no technology could overcome. As our fleets retreated beyond orbit, our sensors recorded the humans standing tall across ruined cities, oceans, and orbital arrays. The world was theirs, and they knew it. We cataloged every movement, every act of courage, every improvisation, lessons in humility, lessons in fear. And in the silence after the storm of war, one thought reverberated through our networks. These fragile creatures had claimed their planet, not through domination, but through the unyielding power of spirit. Humanity had endured. Humanity had triumphed. The final stand had been won. But even from the void, we knew they would not stop here. The dust settled. Across oceans, scorched cities, and orbital arrays, the silence that followed war was deafening. From our observation pontoons and orbital sensors, we, the alien witnesses, beheld a species we had long underestimated and now feared. Humans, battered, bloodied, and tested to the extremes of endurance, were unbowed. Every ruin, every crater, every shattered fleet was a testament not to weakness, but to a resilience we had struggled to quantify. They were small, fragile by appearance, yet they had conquered every environment we had believed impenetrable. The oceans, once presumed lost to our dominance, had been reclaimed with ingenuity and patience. Orbital strongholds, once beacons of our superiority, had been infiltrated, sabotaged, and neutralized by human cunning. Cities, scarred by fire and bombardment, were alive with movement. Engineers repairing, civilians organizing, soldiers redeploying. Every act of reconstruction carried the calm assurance of a species confident in its mastery, yet disciplined by hardship. We observed with a mixture of awe and fear. Our fleet logs recorded what we had once dismissed as anomalies, patterns of improvisation that became strategies, instinct that became weapon, chaos that became dominance.
Humans did not merely survive, they asserted authority over land, sea, and sky. Even our most sophisticated instruments could not fully map the depth of their coordination, nor anticipate the speed at which they adapted to every new challenge. As we cataloged their resurgence, we noted a singular truth. Humans had learned from every strike, every ambush, every orbital skirmish and deep-sea engagement. They had endured what should have been annihilation, and in doing so, they had evolved, not biologically, but in will and spirit. Their creativity, adaptability, and courage had been tested, and these traits had emerged tempered and unbreakable. In the eyes of the galaxy, as we recorded in our logs, humans were now invincible, not in power, but in essence. Our fleets, once bristling with certainty, departed in silence. Heavy vessels, heavy minds, each alien commander carrying the undeniable weight of recognition. This species could not be conquered. Their resilience was not something to be crushed by weapons or numbers. Their dominance was subtle, inherent, and absolute. A species so small had bested us in environments we believed controlled, and yet they rose again with unwavering determination. On Earth, the humans stood quietly triumphant. There were no grand proclamations, no celebratory fanfare broadcast across the planet. Their victory was measured, deliberate, aware. They knew the fragility of peace, the ever-present shadow of challenge, yet they were unafraid. Every ocean trench reclaimed, every city rebuilt, every orbital array repaired or replaced was a declaration. Humanity would not yield, would not forget, and would not be subjugated. We recorded the final patterns of their movements with the precision of fear. Humans patrolled skies, oceans, and land simultaneously, a vigilance born not of paranoia, but of understanding their own power and responsibility. They had learned that to survive was to remain vigilant, to evolve, and to defend relentlessly.
Every step was deliberate, every observation a measure of preparedness, every innovation a testament to the species' mastery of its environment. Our records reflected astonishment. Never had we encountered such a species, small, seemingly fragile, yet capable of orchestrating survival across land, sea, and sky simultaneously. Never had a species transformed instinct into strategy, improvisation into weapon, resilience into dominance. Humans were not merely survivors, they were architects of their own legend, rulers of every domain on their planet, a force that the galaxy would be compelled to respect. The aliens departed, fleets moved beyond orbit, silence following in their wake. Yet the impression of humans endured, encoded in every system, every log, every neural record. A species that refused to submit, that mastered every challenge through courage and ingenuity, that stood as a living testament to the power of determination. Even in retreat, we were changed. The galaxy would record them, catalog them, and fear them, not for the size of their ships, but for the size of their spirit. On Earth, the human survivors did not revel in destruction, but in understanding. They rebuilt not merely for survival, but for ascendance. Cities rose from ruins with careful planning. Oceans were patrolled and protected. Orbital arrays repaired, upgraded, and readied for vigilance. Humanity's eyes, sharp with awareness, scanned the skies, measured the currents of the seas, and observed the planet itself. They were aware of their strength, yet humbly aware of its weight. Mastery demanded constant vigilance, evolution, and responsibility. From our perspective, the lesson was clear. Humanity's defining traits, creativity, adaptability, courage, had been tested to their limits and found not only sufficient, but invincible. In their triumph, the aliens witnessed a force unmatched by technology, scale, or brute power. The humans had ascended, not as conquerors, but as stewards of their world, embodying the essence of resilience that our species could not replicate. And so, across oceans, skies, and rebuilt cities, humanity stood, quiet, patient, resolute, ready. For the future would come, as it always does, but they would face it not as fragile creatures, not as mere survivors, but as masters of their world. The aliens departed, heavy fleets vanishing into the void. Yet the impression remained, etched into every sensor and neural log. A species that ruled the depths, the skies, and the planet itself, whose spirit could not be broken, whose ingenuity could not be defeated, and whose vigilance would endure as long as the earth itself. Humanity had not merely survived, they had ascended. And from the void, we, the observers, understood finally, with awe and fear interwoven. This species was exceptional, unrivaled, and eternal.